All right, everybody. So today I want to talk about reading instructions. One of the things I've been noticing in the Academic Success Center is that a lot of times when students are coming in for tutoring, a lot of people are coming in either with an acknowledged misunderstanding or an inability to understand what the assignment instructions are for the project that they're working on, or they just haven't read them. And I wanted to just let you know that that is a really, really, really huge mistake that needs to really be remedied. And I know in high school, in a lot of people's experience, your teachers tended to spell things out for you a little bit more. You must write about this, you will write about this, you will write about it in this way. And in college and at the university, it's a little bit different. So while absolutely you should, before you come in to meet with a tutor, before you start drafting, before you even go and ask your professor questions, you should try and read through the instructions and try and get a working understanding of what the assignment is. So that's not to say that if you're having a hard time understanding it, that you shouldn't go to your professor or to your teacher and get them to clarify. Or even if you need suggestions, I mean, even in graduate school, I would frequently go to my advisor or I would go to my professors and I would ask them what they thought a valuable topic would be, and then, maybe give them a little bit of guidelines. Like, I was interested in writing about this particular Shakespeare play, or I was interested in writing about this particular person in history, and then see what they thought would be a valuable way to discuss that. And unfortunately, what I see some of the time is, even though your professors post office hours, whether they be through WebEx, whether they be they're a specific time of day during the week, that they say, okay, from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, I'm going to be in my office. I feel like a lot of people have a misunderstanding that that's when professors do work, and so you're bothering them if you go and try and meet with them during their office hours. That couldn't be further from the truth. But to be fair, I kind of thought the same thing when I was first going to college. But they have those hours set aside specifically so that students can come and discuss things with them. I mean, if nobody's in there, they may grade papers or do whatever, but it's meant to have students and their questions as the top priority. And so if you are having a hard time understanding an assignment, your first stop should not be academic success. It should be going and talking to your professor, because they're the ones that come up with these assignments. And what I'm seeing is that a lot of the times students will continue to write either with a misunderstanding of what they're supposed to be doing, or they just simply won't read the instructions fully, and so they end up getting less than desirable grades on assignments because they didn't follow directions, and that's a pretty big one. So what I've done is, obviously it's not on Canvas, but I've dummied up kind of a fake assignment that someone might see in their freshman English class, a simple writing assignment. And I wanted to teach you how to pay attention to some of these keywords that oftentimes the professors will put in there to be specific. So, usually what you'll have is you'll have some type of an assignment up here. It might say paper 1 or essay 1, or it might say, like I have up here, informative paper or essay, something like that. And then right below that, usually there's some kind of message that says, please read the instructions below, or please follow assignment guidelines, or something like that. And then generally, there'll be a numbered list or a lettered list, or sometimes it's, a little dash that separates the different instructions. But it's really important to understand that you have to read through this in order to kind of peel away the layers that you can use to really give the professor what they want and guarantee yourself at least an acceptable, if not a, extraordinary grade. So this fake assignment here that I've made up says, under number 1, choose a musical artist that has used their platform to record a song or an album that issues a political message. So, right there, we know, okay, a musical artist. So it needs to be someone in the music industry. It doesn't have to be somebody signed to a major label. It could be somebody that does stuff on YouTube or TikTok or releases their stuff otherwise through the internet. It doesn't have to be someone, way, way, way up in the stratosphere. Like, I don't know. Like if you were, I don't know, like maybe you're a rap artist like Lil Baby or something like that, or somebody in, kind of more pop music like Taylor Swift. It doesn't have to be that. It could be somebody that's local. I mean, Lord knows, in Louisiana, music is everywhere. So it could be somebody a little bit less well known. But it needs to be a musical artist. So if you start talking about somebody who makes sculptures or somebody who wrote a book or, just a influencer or a celebrity, that's not what this assignment is about. It's about picking a musical artist, and then you get to make the choice, do I want to do a single song, or is there perhaps like a concept album or an album that speaks to something like immigration, Black Lives Matter, women's rights, anti-child abuse, like, what is his name? I'm trying to think. I can't think of it right off the top of my head. Marcus Mumford. A lot of his new album, from Mumford and Sons, if you know who that band is. His first solo album dealt with the sexual abuse he dealt with as a child. So, any type of, political, or I should have put up there social message, because it doesn't have to be, against or for a particular political candidate or law that's come into place. It could be a social cause as well. I should have put that up there. My apologies. Actually, just so that, let me put, there we go. Political / social message. Not the prettiest thing in the world, but at least now it's correct. Okay, so you need to choose a musical artist. You need to choose a political or social message that they are, putting out there, and either a song or an album. So you have a little bit of freedom there. It might be an entire album, might be a song. Instruction number 2, explain the meaning and the importance of this artist and music. So after you've chosen the artist, after you've chosen a song or an album that they've done with a political or a social message, your job then as a writer is to explain not only the meaning of what the song means or the album means, but why it's important right now. So after George Floyd's death, you saw a lot of people in the R&B, rap, hip-hop community that were doing a lot of Black Lives Matter type videos, which were very, very poignant and, were just overall really, really nice, for the time period and everything like that. I know that I spent a lot of time watching them personally. So you need to explain the meaning of the song or the album and then explain why it's important. So you don't get to choose one or the other. You need to explain what it means and then explain why you think it's important. And then finally, this is sort of the nuts and bolts, the construction that you have to do. Your essay must be at least 500 words, have at least one direct quote, and an MLA works cited. And I'm going to put this in there. I forgot to add this in because it's important. No Wikipedia or encyclopedia. I ran across this recently with a couple of students that came in, that the assignment said no encyclopedias, and they ended up getting massive points taken off because they used Britannica.com, which is an encyclopedia online, and they used Wikipedia, which is generally thought of as a non-academic source. And I'm not slamming Wikipedia or the encyclopedias. For what they are, they're very good, but they're not considered legitimate sources. Wikipedia, because it's open source and people can change things, or a lot of times there are facts in there that aren't attributed to legitimate sources. So you'll just kind of have these sentences that don't have anything to back them up. With encyclopedias, again, if you need to find out something quick, they're very useful, but they're not particularly in depth. And so they're not as valuable as, say, for this, I think a legitimate source would be something like if you can find an article on rollingstone.com, or you can find, on the artist's main page, or even going to YouTube and citing, commentary on the video of the song or something like that. Those would all be considered legitimate, but don't run to Wikipedia, don't run to the encyclopedia, because most of your professors are going to mark you down for that. However, with Wikipedia, I will say this: if you go to a wiki and scroll all the way down to the bottom, you will actually see something that's very similar to a works cited. And a lot of times those have digital links to the sources that people that have posted on Wikipedia that, are interested in legitimacy have actually posted. So if you don't use the wiki, but you go down to the resources at the bottom and find a source in there, generally speaking, those are considered legitimate sources. So you can use Wikipedia to find sources, but you should never cite Wikipedia as a legitimate source, if that makes sense. So again, the nuts and bolts of the construction here, it's got to be at least 500 words long. So if you're coming in at 450 or, maybe even 480, depending on how strict your professor is, you're gonna lose points. So you gotta hit that 500 words. You need to have one direct quote, which means you need to have a sentence that was taken word for word from one of your sources in quotation marks with an in-text citation. Usually this is the author's last name, a space, and the page number, if there is one, within parentheses at the end of that direct quote, before the punctuation. If there isn't a page number, just the last name of the author. If there isn't an author listed, pardon me, then generally the simple web address of where you got it from is sufficient. But you can go to Purdue, Purdue, OWL, OWL, the Purdue Online Writing Lab. Click on MLA, and it will give you the way to source just about anything from a YouTube video to a speech to something with 4 authors to something with 1 author, a poem, an interview. It doesn't really matter. They have the proper way to cite things, both in your works cited and as an in-text citation on that website. So You need one quote in MLA format with a citation, a works cited, and it's got to be 500 words long. So if you're missing any component of that, your grade is going to go down because you're not following the instructions. So again, looking at 1 through 3, you're going to choose a musical artist that has some type of a political or social message in one of their songs or an album. Then you need to explain what the meaning is behind that song or album with the political or social message and the importance of the artist and the music. It may be something like it's related to the gross police misconduct that resulted in a lot of the deaths of people of color, and hence Black Lives Matter and all of that, that may be your importance. But you need to explain both what the meaning is and why it's important. And it needs to be at least 500 words long, have one direct quote with MLA in-text citation and quotation marks taken word for word, and it needs to have an MLA works cited where you have that quote, that resource that you quoted, in proper MLA format. And again, you can find that at Purdue OWL online. And don't use Wikipedia directly as a source, and don't use encyclopedias because they're very basic. So that is how you would break down that particular assignment. So it's not just read number 1 and then start working. You need to absorb all of it, make sure you understand it. If you don't fully understand it or you have questions, reach out to your professor and then reach out to the Academic Success Center once you have a draft or a plan in your mind so that everyone is on the same page and that we have the ability to help you and understand directly what you're supposed to be doing. So if you come in to the Academic Success Center for help, make sure that you have the assignment instructions with you, because without looking at those, we won't be able to tell if we're helping you in the right way. All right? So please remember to read instructions. If there are any questions or misunderstandings, reach out to the professor first to get clarification, then come to us and have your assignment guidelines or your instructions ready for us to look at so that we can do the best we can to help you get a good grade. All righty? Have a good one, everybody. I'll see you in the next video.